Hey, welcome to the Spiritual Boundaries mini masterclass. In this masterclass, I'm going to give you 6 things that you need to do right now that will help you have strong AF spiritual boundaries. Now, oftentimes we talk about the personal boundaries that we have with the physical beings in our world, but we do not talk enough about the spiritual boundaries with those that we cannot see, hear, feel, that are all around us all the time. And just because you don't know that they're around doesn't mean that they're not there. Don't get scared because I'm going to walk you through all of the steps and everything that you need to know. So, in a moment, we are going to be walking through those 6 steps. So you can go ahead and click the download section as I give you just a little bit more information. Okay. So, first off, the spiritual world. When I talk about the spiritual world, I am talking about your past loved ones in heaven. And I'm talking about the past loved ones of the people that are around you, because oftentimes they hang out with us because they know that we're open to it and they know that their loved one that's still here on earth may not be open to it and they might use you to get to them. So sometimes you might have spirits around you that you don't even know who they are. Now, I'm also talking about earthbound spirits. So earthbound spirits get a bad rep. A lot of people think that sometimes that they're demons or they're horrible, evil spirits, but not really. They are somebody's past loved one from some time ago or more recent. You don't know when they have passed. And so I'm talking about having boundaries with those as well. Now, the bad part of the spiritual world does exist, but I tell you what, it's very, very rare. If you are scared, then go ahead and I will link it in the comments here, the Overcoming Spiritual Fears, okay, class that will really, really help you out. However, just because we don't notice these good or bad or indifferent beings all around us does not mean that they're not there. And in so many readings that I have done, I have actually seen it when past loved ones are so desperate to let the person know that they're around, they often hang out in their bedroom. And that is because for many of us, we are go, 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 go. And going to sleep is the only time when our mind is calm enough to where they could get a word in edgewise. But just because we don't know that they're there and we don't sense that they're there consciously doesn't mean that our subconscious doesn't know that they're there. And so when you're trying to sleep and do things like that, you can toss and turn and get bad sleep and everything else like that because you don't know that your grandma, grandpa, or whoever it is on the other side is standing right next to your bed. I know it seems kind of creepy, but don't worry because I'm going to be going over the steps that you need to take to have awesome AF spiritual boundaries. All right, let's get to it right now. I am going to share my screen so you can go ahead and pull up that document as well. Okay, here we go. These are the 6 steps. So the very first step that you have to come up with is a daily prayer. This is a prayer that you are going to use in order to set the intention of your boundaries. For me, I do this daily prayer every single night before I go to bed. So I say, I only allow 100% love and light come into my space, and I only allow the past loved ones to come into my space that my mom, who is in heaven, and Archangel Michael can say who's inside of my space when I sleep. And I also say the same things for my husband and my son. Even though I know they have free will and they should be doing this themselves, I also do it on their behalf sometimes because I do believe that the angels, spirit world, God, the universe does put that into consideration. Now, if you are needing some help on a daily prayer, I did include in the downloads a couple of examples that you could possibly use too for your daily prayer, but feel free to put your own little spin on this. And what you can also do with this daily prayer is take it and put it in this document, write it out, and then hang it up somewhere so you will always remember. My thing has become a habit. I have done it every single day, probably since the last, I don't even know, at least 5 years, probably more than that. Okay, the next second step that I want you to do is I want you to create a daily affirmation. Okay, this is just going to help you set in stone the tension of having good spiritual boundaries. So it could be like, I respect and I love my energetic boundaries that are for my highest good. You know, whatever it is going to be that really calls to you, that you could possibly say, you know, throughout the day, that's really going to help you remember that you are now upholding your spiritual boundaries. I will also put a document in the downloads so that you can also have some ideas of some daily affirmations that you can do. It is all about intention. The more intention you put into it, the stronger it is going to be. Okay. So that is the reason why that affirmations are very important, especially if you're someone who does not have really good boundaries with the physical world. Okay. Because your spiritual world and your personal world often reflect each other. Okay. So if you don't have good personal boundaries, you're not going to have good spiritual boundaries. If you get those good spiritual boundaries, then it'll be easier for you to uphold your personal ones. Okay. So your daily affirmation, and you can even make an affirmation, and I did include some in the downloads where it's a double whammy, where it will help you remember your physical and also your spiritual boundaries. All right, going on to number 3, very, very important, okay? It is, these are the spirits I will allow into my space any times or the times that I tell them. All right, so for me, I allow my past loved ones to come in anytime, except for when I'm sleeping. All right, and we'll get over to the times for a moment, but I allow any of my past loved ones. Now, it might be helpful here for your first time to actually list out every single one of your past loved ones, okay? I know it might be a little daunting task for some of us, but for me, the number one people that I think of is my mom and my grandma and my Aunt Judy and my Aunt Betty and my Uncle Dale and my Uncle Jim, right? I want all of them to be able to be coming inside of my space, but definitely if you want to start off small, you can go ahead and just choose 1 or 2 and then work your way up to the whole darn family. All right. Sometimes that could be a lot easier for you because if you're not used to spiritual communication, if you're not really used to trying to tune into that, then it might be easier to just go with 1 or 2. Because while you're upholding your spiritual boundaries and you're becoming more, let's say, mindful of your spiritual boundaries, you're also going to be connecting more, even subconsciously, to the spiritual world because it's always going to be on the forefront of your mind now. Okay. So definitely write them down, just maybe 1 or 2 for now. Or hey, if you want to, write down the whole entire darn family. Okay, so now we're moving on to step 4, which is I agree. Spirits can talk to me at the following times. Okay, so just like you don't have your front door of your house open all the freaking time, you don't want your front door being open to spirits all of the time. I remember one day I went for a walk in my neighborhood, and when I came back, I noticed the energy of my house was different. When I tuned in just very quickly, I realized there was a whole bunch of freaking spirits in my house. And to be honest with you, I was a little upset because wouldn't you be upset if you just went on a walk and you came back to your house and there was a party going on and there was like 20 people and half the people you didn't even know were there? You would probably be upset. You'd be like, how did you get in here? Who allowed this? Like, this is ridiculous. And it was the exact same thing that I felt when I came home and I realized that there was probably at least 20 freaking spirits in my house. Now I'm going to teach you so that you can go ahead and learn how to detect that yourself, but this is going to be your first step, okay? And so what I ended up realizing as soon as I tuned in and I asked the question, what in the world are these people doing in my house? I got the answer. I was actually having a mediumship gallery reading online that night, and it was the past loved ones of the people who were waiting to talk with their loved ones who are still here. Psh, mind blown. Totally forgot about that. So I allow the spiritual world to communicate with me all of the time, except for when I'm sleeping. And so, as you know by my prayer, I go ahead and I only allow my mom and Archangel Michael to go ahead and delegate, anybody else coming into my space or dictating who can come inside of my space. So you can say, okay, you know what? I'm still new. I don't want everybody up in my grill. That means the spiritual world. So I am only going to allow spirits to come into my space while I'm cooking, while I'm awake, while I'm driving, all those things. Now, here is the key. You have to have a time when you are open. So these are going to be your open and close times. When people are like, oh my God, like, do mediums always like get everything all the time? Are they always seeing people's past loved ones out in the store? Or, are they psychically connecting to me? Can they read my mind? No, 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 no. We have open times and we have closed times. So when you see me out at Kroger, when you see me out at the department store or the mall, I am not connecting. I am not connecting. I just basically have it to where my spirit guides will let me know if anything needs to happen, but then that I'm not going to be like connecting to everybody's past loved one and those kinds of things. And you don't want to be doing that either. And a lot of people, especially with untapped gifts, are going around open all of the time. And you know what that creates? That creates anxiety, that creates depression, that creates fatigue, low energy levels. It creates so much because you have or could possibly be having a lot of spirits inside of your space. And some of them might be accidentally sucking your energy. Some of them might be trying to talk to you so loud and everything else like that and trying to push emotion onto you and you're accidentally absorbing it. Just how like empaths go ahead and absorb the energy of physical people, then mediums or psychics or people with untapped gifts, which that's basically everybody, right? They can go ahead and also absorb the energy of the spirits that are around them. So it's really important to have those open and close times. And it's important because if you spend most of your life not opening up to your gifts and never ever being open, then there is going to be a time when God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, allows those spirits to come inside of your space because you're never going to be open. And so God basically says, okay, fine, then go ahead, push them, push the boundaries or whatever, just keep going because she's never open. So you're going to have to dictate a time that is good for you in which they can communicate with you. And then, like we already said, it's who also that you allow to communicate with you. So is that going to be spirits of only 100% love and light? Is it going to be just your past loved ones? Remember, we went ahead and we delegated that out in step number 3. So step number 4 is the times while you're cooking, while you're driving, so forth. Okay. So for me, it's going to be, I am open all of the time, except for when I'm sleeping. Was I that way when I first began? No, I think that I made my open times like after work, those few hours before dinner and that kind of thing. That's the time that I delegated as I was being open. Okay. So step number 5, it says, here are a few steps that I will take to strengthen my physical boundaries so that my spiritual boundaries will become strong AF. So your spiritual world and your personal world reflect each other, right? So all of us, no matter how strong your spiritual boundaries are or your physical boundaries are, there's always room for improvement. Okay. So when you look around at your personal boundaries, maybe people know when they can come over, when they can call you, or when you're available. But what is one or two more things that you could possibly do to improve that boundary so then it will also reflect and help out your spiritual boundaries? So I will give you one of my examples that I'm currently working on. I feel like my boundaries are so strong physically, okay, because I have to make myself a little bit less available because I have so many people reaching out to me. There's so many people's energy coming towards me and wanting a piece of, my energy, and so I have to make sure I have really clear boundaries. I also have a lot of family members that are toxic and things like that. So I have to protect myself. And the things that I do is, I make myself unavailable for drama. I don't give in to anything like that is very negative. I don't, participate in gossip and things like that. So those could be some ways that you could go ahead and strengthen your boundaries. However, for me, I am realizing that in my spiritual work with my spiritual peeps, sometimes I am a little bit too giving with a lot of my energy. And I just need to make sure that I pace myself and I don't do too much in one day because I could be burnt out. So this is also very common with teachers. So teachers are often ones who give a lot because they share a lot of that knowledge and they have a lot of students and things like that, but then they get burnt out very quickly because they're always giving so much. So maybe that is something that you can relate to. Maybe you're somebody in your household that does all of the chores and you're always doing the cleaning and the laundry and you're doing everything. Maybe this is going to be you stepping back, allowing other people to do a little bit more, take a little bit more responsibility, or you're at least not going to do so much in a day and you're going to make that time for the self-care or the things that make you happy. All right. So just a couple of steps. Okay. Like I am going to allow my kids to do their own laundry. I'm going to have them put away their own laundry. Or maybe it's going to be like, I am not going to take my mother's phone call anymore when I am in the middle of, watching my favorite movie. Like I will wait until afterwards, or I will set a boundary to where I'm only going to call her the next day. Like this is me personally, I have TV time with my husband every single night from about 7 to 8. So I don't take any phone calls or anything like in there. I'm really, really strong long in that time frame. Like I try not to text anybody. I try not to do anything, phones off, those kinds of things. So those little baby things will go ahead and also help you with your spiritual boundaries. Okay, so now we're moving on to number 6, okay? It is what I will do if I feel like my boundaries are being pushed. Your boundaries are your responsibility. So when you hear people saying, "Oh no, like they won't respect my boundaries. Oh no, they're pushing my boundaries." That is your problem. A little bit of tough love there. That is you. You are not upholding your boundaries. And sometimes it can be tough. Like I'm not saying that it's easy sometimes. I know it can be hard, okay? But you can't blame the other person. Whenever you go ahead and you allow your boundaries to be pushed, that's on you. But that means that if you're allowing them to push the boundaries, sometimes that's good. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm pushing this boundary. I'm going to allow this. I'm going to allow that. But it's my choices. It's my decision. It's my responsibility. So the same thing with you. It is going to be your responsibility. And people are going to push your boundaries. And this is going to be for the physical and also the spiritual boundaries. So whichever way that your mind was really going, that is the one that I want you to fill out here. Okay. Is it going to be a spiritual? Is it going to be a physical boundary? And then what are you going to do if those boundaries are pushed? And I'm going to give you some ideas. Okay. So first off, with the physical boundaries, you will go ahead and maybe you will have like a quote that you say, all right? And I'll put some examples, okay, in the downloads for you. But this is what you're going to say if you feel like your boundaries are being pushed in the physical realm. All right. So this is what you're going to do. This is what you've decided it beforehand, because oftentimes it's easier to decide on this stuff beforehand, because if you're already in the moment, sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult. Does that make sense, to try and think of something on top of your head? So I'll give you some examples, but this is what you can do. For me, it's going to be how you respond. Okay. Be like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I just can't. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, but that's not going to work for me. And I also hate saying the word I'm sorry, but you can be like, I apologize, or you could be like, however you want to put it, that is just going to make it sound really good for you. And this is something that I feel like you need to work on personally, because that's what I did. And I realized that what other people suggested with this didn't really work for me, because I was a person that was a big, big people pleaser, and I didn't want anybody to be mad at me. So what I ended up doing was, when I gave excuses out, I would say, thank you for understanding that I can't make it. And then I would give them a whole entire excuse on why I couldn't make it. But then what I ended up doing over time was I shortened the excuse. So if I had to say I'm sorry, which is thank you for understanding that I cannot make it, but my dog did this and this and this and this and this and this, I started shortening it up to where finally I can comfortably say, thank you for understanding that I can't make it. And then heart face, heart smiley face. Okay. Now, with your spiritual boundaries, this is what I do. If I feel like my boundaries are being pushed, the very first thing that I do is I say it out loud, my boundary. And I say it with that authoritative voice. When my son was growing up, he would often get scared because he'd be like, you're talking in the mean voice. Because the mean voice is what I did when he was in trouble. I would be like, do you think that that is a good choice? So did you see how I did it? And that's kind of what I do when I feel like my spiritual boundaries are being pushed. Like when all of a suddenly I feel like someone's inside of my space, I didn't allow them, I don't recognize the energy. Or for example, when I came up to my house and I seen that I felt those 20 freaking spirits there, get your mean voice out. I only allow 100% love and light come to my space. Like you say it with more authority, okay? Because some spirits, and even your past loved ones too, their personalities, they go ahead and they're kind of like toddlers, okay? And sometimes you need to be a little bit forceful with them. Or if you have somebody that's inside of your space that is one of your friends or one of your neighbors, those kinds of things, you might have to be a little bit more authoritative and put your freaking foot down with them. So that is the first thing that I do, is I say it out loud and I say it with more authority. If I'm like sleeping and I feel it happening, I will just like kind of do the authority voice in my mind, or I'll whisper it so my husband doesn't wake up and think I'm a freaking weirdo. But the second thing that I do too is if I get scared that something has pushed my boundaries, then what I do is I call upon the angels and then I ask them to take my fear away. So it's kind of like a double whammy. The first thing is that you could go ahead and ask Archangel Michael or any Michael of your choosing, any angel of your choosing, and ask them to go ahead and intervene. And then the other thing though is to take away your fear. And I will sit there, and I have done it before with my arms crossed, being like, angels, you go ahead and you take this fear away from me. And I'm going to sit here until I'm not scared anymore. And I've done that a couple of times with the angels. So that is kind of some of the examples that I can give that will really, really help you if you feel like your boundaries are being pushed. All right. So I hope that you had fun. I really, really, really want to hear what you got out of this. I really want to hear in your daily prayers, your affirmations, who you're allowing inside of your space, and what really came up for you. You can just comment it below. I cannot wait to hear them. And thank you for joining me in this mini masterclass.